Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Sometimes you'll hear me have a conversation, talk about a subject, and then the next day I've spun on to something else, but something sort of related to the prior episode. It's interesting how sometimes I just stumble into stories while discussing other topics altogether. Last couple of days, I've been very Atlanta-centric, and yesterday we spoke a good bit about the impact of the development called Amsterdam Walk. I'm sure it'll have a new name by the time they break ground and we get renderings on the fence posts and all that stuff. Nonetheless, it brought me to the thought of Atlanta's transit situation, traffic kerfuffle, the snarl that is Atlanta traffic. I was telling my friend Randy, who I'll be visiting with later this afternoon. He's visiting his son in Sandy Springs. He said, I'll meet you around 10 at your place in Old Fourth Ward. What time should I leave? And I literally told him, just check your Maps app, say around 8:30, and start gauging from there. You just never know. In any event, I was speaking yesterday with Charlie Captain with the A Better Amsterdam Walk organization about the looming traffic problem that will be in and around his neighborhood that already exists, honestly, if you are familiar with that area, Morningside and Monroe Avenue. It's already a bomb cyclone of traffic, and you can expect that to only get worse with 1,100 apartments and 1,430 so, I guess, parking spaces, retail along the Beltline, and only one two-lane entryway, egress into that spot. Anyway, I stumbled on the story that Stunley Dunlap had filed with the Georgia Recorder. The headline, Atlanta Air Quality Gets Failing Grade in New American Lung Association National Ranking. The American Lung Association's 2025 Annual Air Quality Index gives failing grades to Georgia's Population Center for Smog and Air Pollution. This in the Georgia Recorder. I will have this in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. The ALA's State of the Air report released Wednesday ranked Atlanta third worst in ozone pollution and fourth worst in year-round counts for particle pollution in the southeast. The association's 28th annual report examines data during a 3-year window from 2021 to 2023, a period during the transition out of a pandemic that had kept the roads clearer due to more people working from home. Atlanta's grade also slips from a C to F for ground-level ozone pollution after recording a 5.5 unhealthy days per year compared to 1.8 days in the 2024 report. Atlanta's ozone emission ranks 48th worst out of 228 cities across the country, which is the third worst metro area in the southeast. Atlanta ranks 67th worst nationally in the association's 2024 findings. Later in the show, we will speak with Dana Thompson, an advocacy director for the American Lung Association here in Georgia, who says that the poor air quality, particularly caused by ozone, poses a health risk to children and the elderly, as well as people suffering with pre-existing conditions like asthma or heart disease. Looking forward to having that conversation with her a little bit later in the show. I want to go back to a column filed here a few days ago in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The narrowing field for the Georgia Democrats who are looking to run for governor. It is a short list, and there were a lot of big names that came out and about very early on. We heard, of course, about Congresswoman Lucy McBath, who had kicked the tires on running. Her husband, however, with a cancer diagnosis, she has decided to, at least temporarily, sideline that. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, we talked a good bit about that. There's been a good bit of ink spilled on her potential to run for that office as well. Bill Torpey in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution with an op-ed that I wholeheartedly endorse. I don't see the viability. Stacey Abrams has yet to decide what she's going to do. Potentially a third try for the same office for her. Narrowly lost in 2018. Lost by a larger margin in 2022. She'll be dogged by, this clip from President Donald Trump's first address to a joint session of the House and Senate.
$1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
Well, obviously we have. The Washington Post, by the way, we didn't really get to touch on this too much. False claim. They have eviscerated that with a sturdy fact check, and it's a pretty long, lengthy, reedy fact check, so we know MAG is not going to dive into that. But in his speech to Congress, they write, President Trump played up unproven claims of malfeasance in green energy funding, cited Stacey Abrams. This is analysis from Glenn Kessler. He writes, we fact-checked 26 claims in Trump's address on Tuesday night, but this one required a more research to nail down. From Trump's phrasing, it sounds as though Stacey Abrams somehow got her hands on nearly $2 billion at the last moment. Abrams, of course, helped ensure Trump's 2020 election loss in Georgia by registering more than 800,000 voters, many people of color, in the state, so he has particular animus toward the former minority leader of the Georgia House of Representatives. The president mentioned her as he read a long list of, mostly bogus, claims of government scams. The WAPO fact check continues. Is Trump's claim true? No, not at all. A Biden green energy program has been the subject of feverish reporting in the right-wing media, spurred by Trump's Environmental Protection Agency, but Abrams' role has been vastly overblown, Kessler writes. And I could sit here and dive into that and give you the minutia. I do have a gift link, I believe, still to spend with the Washington Post. I will make sure that I give you that. But the point of this segment is more to talk about the field that's being set now for 2026 in Georgia's gubernatorial race, particularly on the left. Back to the AJC. The Democratic field for governor is starting to take shape, and they write thin out. Democrat Jason Estevez's entry into the race earlier this week helped crystallize the field for the state's top job and prompted two other potential candidates to solidify their own plans. The first is Jason Carter, the party's 2014 nominee for governor. He'd indicated he was open to a comeback in recent weeks, but shortly after Estevez made his campaign official, Carter, the grandson of the late President Jimmy Carter, told the AJC he's not running in 2026. That almost sounds like a tacit endorsement of Estevez. That's not nothing. His wife, Kate, is undergoing treatment for brain cancer, and he's focusing on her health as well. That's two candidates now whose spouses are dealing with cancer, and in Carter's and McBath's circumstances, both of them are, at least for now, taking a knee. Okay, so the continuation of this column, Carter isn't endorsing anyone, at least not yet. But he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution he's enthusiastic about Estevez's campaign. Senior Democrats say his name might show up on Estevez's first campaign finance report. The second name that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution mentions is Michael Thurmond. The former DeKalb County CEO and ex-state labor commissioner has long been seen as a top-tier candidate. He hasn't ruled out a run, but Thurmond told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution he's still weighing the odds. There's a path, Thurmond said, but it's a very narrow path for a Democrat in 2026. I don't, right away, if you're going to run, I don't like that sort of, is it skeptic or pessimistic? It's not optimistic. The column continues, he's heard it all during a quiet statewide listening tour while promoting his history on James Oglethorpe. I'm hearing from some people who say running for governor is a crazy idea, he says, and some are saying it's not. But I know, no matter what, it will be difficult. For those following at home, here's the rundown. The AJC writes, so far, Estevez is in. Allegedly getting in. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Who's out so far? Jason Carter. Congresswoman Lucy McBath. Unlikely, the AJC opines, Stacey Abrams. And iffy, Michael Thurmond. Now, here's the thing. I can't speak for the rest of the state of Georgia's media coverage of Jason Estevez's announcement. I can say he is making the rounds in Atlanta media. But what I hope is he's doing the same in Columbus and Macon and Augusta, Savannah, those TV markets, Chattanooga TV market. It's important to hit as well. He's got to do that. He can't make the same mistake that I believe that the Abrams campaign made in 2022 in particular, just staying so close, literally to the belt, to the to the perimeter, ITP. You gotta go OTP. You gotta go way OTP if you want to win in the state of Georgia. You can't just take it for granted that you've got 45, 50% of the state's voters locked down because of Metro Atlanta. Got to go out there and win the votes in the flyover counties and the metros outside Atlanta. Here he is, however, on WANF-TV Atlanta News First, their coverage of his announcement.
As the race for Georgia's governor next year draws closer, only one Democratic candidate has announced a run. It is State Senator Jason Estevez. He threw his name in the hat just yesterday, and political reporter Doug Reardon went one-on-one with Estevez. And Doug, he thinks he has the background to win this race.
He does, Blair, and there's been a lot of speculation as to who may run on the Democratic side and who may not run. In fact, we just learned today that the grandson of former Georgia governor and U.S. President Jimmy Carter, Jason Carter, who has run before, will not seek another chance at getting to the governor's mansion. His wife is dealing with brain cancer, but that leaves Estevez as now the only declared Democratic candidate for the governor's office. He is an attorney, a former school board member here at APS. He even taught for the district for a while, and he says he has the skill set to make things better here in Georgia. State Senator Jason Estevez became the first Democrat to officially enter the governor's race on Monday. As a former social studies teacher and school board member with Atlanta's public system, education is a top priority for him and always has been.
Made sure that the students were receiving the tools that they needed to succeed, and as a result, we saw record-breaking graduation rates.
Estevez wants to bolster Georgia's pre-K program so kids can get an early jump and parents can have reliable childcare. He also wants to improve the state's technical college system. Estevez is also focused on lowering the cost of housing.
We can start tackling the cost of that by ensuring that these foreign corporations that are coming from out of state are not buying up all of our single-family homes.
A restaurant owner himself, Estevez also wants to make sure that the state's small businesses are getting the same advantages big ones are.
If we provided low-interest loans, we would provide people right here in this state with opportunities to create their business, but also grow their business, hire more employees, have a bigger imprint in their neighborhood.
If Estevez were to win, he would be the state's first black and first Latino governor. He'd also be the first Democrat elected to the office since Roy Barnes in 1998. He attributes his penchant for public service to his parents, who often worked multiple jobs to keep their family afloat.
And I've seen the value of hard work, but they also instilled in me the value of giving back to my community.
And while Estevez is the only Democrat to have declared a run, there is another person already in the race. It's Republican Attorney General Chris Carr. He announced back in November. We reached out to Carr today. We didn't hear back, but we're hoping to talk to everyone who enters the gubernatorial race at some point. We're live at the state capitol. Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
So there was also a story that WXIA-TV 11 Alive posted. They had a few minutes with Jason Estevez as well, so he sat down with them. Their Georgia Vote co-anchor Zach Merchant getting the one-on-one.
Why do you want to be Georgia's next governor?
Well, because Georgians deserve better. When you think about the fact that Georgians are working harder than they have ever before, yet they, for so many, are still struggling. They deserve a governor that can tackle a lot of the issues that they're facing around housing, around health care, around education and investing in our children.
So he's making a splash on local Atlanta television. Here's what I see. The way News 13, Channel 13 WMAZ, their headline, owner of Macon's soon-to-be opening Flying Biscuit location. That's the name of the small business that he and his wife launched. The Flying Biscuit, by the way, fantastic breakfast. If you get a chance to sit down at a Flying Biscuit, I'm not just endorsing that because he's a Democrat and he's running for governor. It's really good. Anyway, the headline, owner of Macon's soon-to-be opening Flying Biscuit location announces bid for Georgia governor. Did you hear his name in that headline at all? Got to get out and meet people. And I'm sure you can meet plenty of voters sitting down at your Flying Biscuit locations, but get your name in there, sir. We have reached out to Jason. In fact, he and I have texted back and forth a little bit. We're working on a perfect time to have him on, and I have told him, listen, I gave a city council candidate the entire show. Why would I not give Georgia's lone Democratic gubernatorial candidate, so far to announce anyway, why would I not give him a full 44 and a half minutes of this show? I absolutely will. He's been on before. He's been a fantastic guest. We'll do it one-on-one, in real life, in person, however he needs to do it. We will make that happen. So Bookmark that. All right, we're going to talk with Dana Thompson from the American Lung Association about Atlanta's air quality when the Ron Show returns. You can follow the Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms at Ron Show ATL. I did a Substack yesterday, and I'm always on myself for not doing that enough. I should have, every time I do a show, I should have a Substack, and I just don't do it. But I'm there at Ron Show ATL. Also, Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter X, Instagram, Threads. I think I covered them all. Yes. Dana Thompson joins us from the American Lung Association here in Georgia. And we were talking before we went on the air about, the fact that I called her half an hour early, so I apologize for that. Nonetheless, thank you for joining us. We were quibbling a little bit because she's got, by the way, a beautiful family, the French Bulldog. And I somehow mentioned having cats, and she said, well, I've got a cat too. And I got onto her because she doesn't have a cat on the blog. So what's the cat's name? We've got to work on that.
Pressure is on. His name's Mac.
Mac. And you say he's a hoot.
He is. He runs the house. Yeah. He likes to eat at certain times. He has a schedule. He keeps me to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's not why we booked this interview. So I'll go ahead and transition on to what brought me on, and it was the rollout throughout the country. I've seen this throughout the country. Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Salinas, California. A lot of cities reporting their air quality rankings as they just came out here in 2025, and Atlanta did not have a good report card.
No, unfortunately, so just to back up, the Lung Association's, this is our 26th annual State of the Air Report, and it grades exposure to unhealthy levels of ozone pollution, which is also known as smog, and particle pollution, which is also known as soot. And it's over a 3-year period. This year's report covers 2021 through 2023. And unfortunately, Atlanta came in third worst in the metro area in the Southeast for ozone pollution, and fourth worst for year-round particle pollution.
What are the metro areas that actually were worse than Atlanta? Just curious.
Yeah, so that was Memphis and Baton Rouge were tied for worst in the Southeast for ozone, and then Chattanooga, Columbus, Georgia, and Little Rock for particle pollution.
All right, I don't know much about Little Rock and what contributes to that, or even Columbus for that matter, but I understand, having lived in Louisiana, Baton Rouge it's like Cancer Alley. There are all kinds of manufacturing and petroleum manufacturing and refining that are up and down the Mississippi River that contribute quite heavily to the air quality there. What are the contributions to Atlanta's air quality woes?
Yeah, so thinking about ozone pollution, it forms in the air through chemical reactions with the presence of heat and sunlight, which is why we see those poor ozone days kind of rising as the temperatures rise, right? It can cause something like a sunburn of the lung. And some of those contributors are fuel combustion in vehicles, industrial boilers, power plants are some good examples of where that ground level ozone is coming from. Particulate matter, one of the other things we measure for is tiny particles, and these are can come from vehicle emissions, industrial waste, wildfires, and even construction dust. And they can penetrate deep into the lungs and the bloodstream, and they are known to cause lung cancer. So these are dangerous pollutants.
You mentioned lung cancer. I just finished binging Mad Men, by the way. I'm like a decade behind on that. And my God, the amount of cigarette smoking they did back then. It had me clearing my throat the entire time I'm watching that show. But another story for another day. But awareness and information really does matter. So what do we take with this information and alter in our way of life?
So with with each report that comes out, we like to take one action and really encourage everyone to act and feel empowered to take action on behalf of having healthier air. This year, we're urging everyone to support the incredibly important work of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Without the EPA staff and programs, Georgians won't know what's in the air they're breathing, and the efforts to clean up air pollution will be undone. So their work is critically important, and it is in danger. And so we have a sign-on petition at our website, lung.org/SOTA, that we are encouraging everyone to sign up for.
All right. Well, I'm going to put a pin in that. I got to take a quick break, hard break here for the news on America One Radio and Progressive Voices via TuneIn, and we'll pick up on that conversation. We're with Dana Thompson, the American Lung Association, right after the break.
This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
We're talking with Dana Thompson, Advocacy Director, the American Lung Association here in Georgia. Atlanta's air quality report card came out, and we're not putting it on the refrigerator. In fact, the refrigerator might be part of the problem. Dana, thanks for joining us. Can I tell you something anecdotal that I wonder if this contributes to air quality woes? I believe we are a society, and I get it. I'm a Georgia boy. I've lived in the South all my life. It gets hot here in June, July, August, September. But I feel like we're addicted to air conditioning, like severely addicted. I have a roommate. We have the argument about the thermostat. He said, I run hot when I sleep, blah, 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 blah. Okay, turn a fan on. But like when I walk into a lot of restaurants, even places where they have like an open air section or the garage door thing that was the thing for a while, open, fans ablazing, air conditioning just pouring onto their patrons. I get it. The kitchen's hot, but I feel like we're a society that is a little beyond addicted to air conditioning. And is that something that would, like, if we just dial the thermostat back a little bit, we could deal with our air quality problems as well?
I think that there are things that all of us can do to contribute. I love my air conditioner, and in the South, there's no way to live without it.
No.
Even this early, it's not even quite summer yet, and I mean, I've already got that AC going, the last few weeks, but certainly we do want to all be mindful of, our contribution to what, to climate change and to our, I think there's an individual responsibility component, surely.
Sure. So the other part I was thinking about was I was reading in the Georgia Recorder article that I found you in, by the way, when I was talking with a neighborhood association representative yesterday, dealing with traffic, and Atlanta is a trafficked city, an over-trafficked city, and we're also a concrete bubble. And the heat from concrete in the summertime and what resonates from that has to contribute to air quality as well, obviously. But I guess my point was, what do we do about commuting or cutting the commuting? It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. You guys suggested walking, biking, et cetera, and so on, but that puts you out there in the air and in the heat as well.
Yeah, it does. And we do have to protect ourselves from the dangerous levels of heat. I think a lot of, our recommendations are blanket across the country and across the country sees different temperatures, right? So, obviously, supporting public transit initiatives and using public transit, because that's part of supporting it, and prioritizing walking and biking when it's feasible, and maybe it's adjusting your schedule, doing your errands earlier in the morning because the middle of the day is going to be unrealistic.
Is that a reality where the impact of you being in the car can, depending on the time of day, lessen the impact on air quality?
We say it is, and I think if individuals start contributing and being more mindful on a larger scale, then certainly there's impact.
I know you're on a political show and you are in an apolitical position at the American Lung Association, but the elephant in the room is we are faced with an administration that doesn't seem to be as friendly towards green energy offerings, seems to be loosening regulations on manufacturing and allowable pollution and pollutants. What is the ALA's position on the direction that the nation seems to be going when it comes to those sort of standards?
Well, as a nonpartisan organization, we want to work with whomever is in office in the most efficient way we can to protect lung health. So that's kind of the lens that we have to look at everything through.
I also saw this conversation about wildfires and the contribution that in that period of the last report card here, I'm sitting here trying to make excuses for Atlanta. I promise you, the dog ate the homework. No, we were faced with wildfire smoke. From as far away as Canada, affecting our air quality. We could literally see it in the air. That has to have some kind of impact as well, correct?
Oh, it certainly does. I don't know from what I really couldn't pinpoint if the years that this report covers included the Canadian wildfires. But listen, that smoke travels far. No, if it's in other parts of the country, it does impact and it can impact even states away. And we know that smoke from wildfires can harm miles downwind. So it is dangerous. Yes.
Anecdotally speaking, how far out from Atlanta do you go before you see a steep increase in air quality? I'm the type of guy, I like to hit the road. I go 60, 70 miles out, sometimes 75 miles up to the mountains to grab a hike or find a waterfall or something like that. At what point do we hit a threshold where we're like, okay, you're in a good spot, go enjoy some fresh air?
Well, you need to go further than Chattanooga, I can tell you that.
No,
they were.
Yeah, I know Chattanooga. Yeah, I remember Chattanooga bad. So we're not going to go Chattanooga's way. Although I love Cloudland Canyon. I mean, that's a fantastic spot, and I'm going into the canyon, so maybe the air's a little bit better down in the canyon.
Yeah, our air quality data tends to come from more metropolis areas. Mm-hmm. So, but I think you would find more success in, more rural or the mountains.
I also saw where more than half the country lives in an area that is saddled with poor air quality. That's disturbing. That's distressing.
It really is. Yeah, it is. And I think through these reports, our hope is that people will pay attention to what's in the air they breathe and understand the dangers. And I think it does make us all a little bit more mindful as to maybe turning that thermostat down or, taking those, public transit options or riding our bike.
So in comparing report cards here, I want to see how the other students in the class did. What about Augusta? You mentioned Columbus didn't very well. Macon, Savannah, other regional cities in the Southeast, Charlotte, Columbia, South Carolina, Birmingham. What are we looking at? How are we faring against the rest of the class?
I mean, if you're looking at Georgia overall across the state, grades did worsen. Gwinnett's went from a B to a C for particle pollution. Dalton area worsened from a B to a C. Columbus, as we talked about, was on one of those bad lists.
Worse than Atlanta,
So Augusta area did rank among the cleanest for ozone, but it tied, for fourth worst for particle pollution. So, and then Savannah's grade did go down. We really saw, looking more towards the Carolinas, and their grades worsened as well. Yeah. So
it's a little distressing, but I want to take the bright side approach to this. Where are we compared to where we were, say, 25 years ago? We have to be in better shape, right? I mean,
we are in a lot better shape. Yes. The Clean Air Act has done a lot of good things, and we want to protect that. We want to protect the things that are in place, and we want to not undo the work that's already been done. So really critical, and another reason, that we do this report, and we want to highlight that.
So does the ALA, the American Lung Association, does it have political advocacy when you see headlines like in the Current where Representative Carter is seeking to weaken air pollution standards, or the current EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is looking to overturn regulations on fine particle pollution? I mean, does the ALA speak up about that?
Yes, we're absolutely opposed to that proposal specifically. Yes, absolutely.
All right, good deal. Listen, I appreciate you giving me some time, and again, I'm sitting here asking political questions, sort of, and I appreciate the fact that you have to be apolitical in your role, and so I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to corner you in anything like that. This is something that is important to me. I'm a lifelong Georgian. I grew up outside Augusta, actually. I like to go to the mountains to get that fresh air, and I feel like it's a psychological thing. But now more than ever, it's eating my mind up. It really is. I tell myself I got to go to Helen. Like, I'm going to go northeast because it's between here and Charlotte, which was another poor grade. And I think outside of both metros, well enough for me to go get that fresh air. And I just believe that it's more than just a state of mind. It's a state of health, a state of lung sort of thing. And I tell myself, like, I'm literally like begging people on the weekends, hey, let's go do a hike. Can we go somewhere? Because I want to get out of, the big city bubble here to get that fresh air. And I don't know if it's just psychological. I feel like it's something that, like, I literally feel in my sternum where my lungs are. I just feel this is important to be aware of.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we all can feel that. Yeah. It's fresh air, it's healthy, and being in nature, good mental health practice.
Well, and you're a mom with 4 kids. I mean, where do you take them to go out and get some fresh air and enjoy the non-Atlanta, non-smog?
Well, we do like to get on the road. I love Colorado. I grew up in Texas, going to Colorado, so try to get out there once a year, sometimes twice. It's just as beautiful in the summer as it is in the winter. It's a little bit of a trek, but love the mountains. We try to get to some sunshine when it's not too hot in the summer.
Terrific. Dana
I'm
Thompson.
a big kayaker. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's great spots to do that in North Georgia too. Like, don't sleep on North Georgia. That's for those of us who just, don't always have the wherewithal to go all the way to Colorado. Anyway, I suggest a few spots, and folks can hit me up, Ron at ronshowatl.com, if you'd like some kayaking spots or some hiking spots or anything like that. Dana Thompson, Advocacy Director with the American Lung Association here in Georgia. Thank you so much for joining the Ron Show today and having what I think is a pretty important conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So after a quick break, come back and ask, is bigger actually better, or is it just bigger? Ponder that. When the Ron Show returns, we'll discuss here on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. All right. Home stretch of the Ron Show. We got about 10 minutes or so on this. I came across a Facebook post that led me to a website, that led me to learning who's behind this website and what the story is, et cetera, and so on. The Facebook post came from an organization called Revitalize or Die, which is a bit of a passion project for a fellow by the name of Jeff Siegler. And according to their website, he's assisted hundreds of communities with their revitalization, economic sustainability, and community development over the course of his career, utilizing a background in urban planning, downtown district management, revitalization, real estate, economics, and organizational development. His diverse background, they write, and expertise lends a unique vantage point for addressing community concerns. What he says here, and I'm sure he wrote this, what Jeff lacks in patience and eloquence, he makes up for in passion and honesty. Boy, put that on my tombstone. Anyway, Jeff wrote in Revitalize or Die back on April 15th. Let's cut to it. Bigger is not better. Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, Georgia DOT, if you're listening. Chasing growth for growth's sake? That's not a strategy. It's a sugar rush in policy form. Quick hit, long crash. Recently, while working in a community, someone asked the golden question. Should cities focus on growing their population, jobs, and development? Absolutely not, Jeff writes. That's the most common, most misguided approach in the playbook. It sounds bold, it sounds visionary, but it's lazy because not all growth is good growth. Think of it like this. Jeff writes, if I told you that you personally needed to grow, what would you picture? Adding muscle, getting healthier, gaining strength, or just putting on weight? Because if it's just about numbers, you could sit on the couch eating gas station nachos and drinking Miller Lite. You'd grow, but you wouldn't be better. Same goes for our cities. Sprawl isn't strength. More strip malls don't build resilience. A dozen new fast food joints doesn't make your town self-reliant. It just makes it easier to get a cheap burger. Growth should be the byproduct of getting better, not the goal itself. If your town becomes more beautiful, more walkable, more connected, more locally focused, guess what? People will notice. They'll visit. Some will stay. That is healthy growth. But it starts with improvement. Jeff writes, we've got to stop measuring success in square footage and traffic counts. Start measuring it in dignity, joy, pride, and resilience. Does this new project make your town stronger, more self-sufficient, more livable? Ask that every time, he writes. Because bad growth is easy. Good growth is earned. It's time we stop chasing size and start building substance. Better beats bigger every single time. I know this is something that you may want to apply to your town, your city, perhaps even your county, your state. But I think this is something that we seem to be focused on. I say we, speaking of the current administration, we seem to be focusing on in a pretty irrational way. I'm sure you've seen the headlines, and folks on the left are freaking out, myself included, about the notion of birth baby bonuses coming from the federal government. Because our budget deficit, our national debt was somehow an issue before, but now suddenly, if you have 6 or more kids, we've got money for that. I don't understand that at all. Never mind the fact that overpopulation of the planet is bad for the planet. It doesn't contribute to making the world better. And I'm not saying that those of you who have more than 6 kids, that your kids aren't making the world better. I'm not saying that in general. I'm saying that population for population's sake is not necessarily going to make the U.S. a better country, the world a better world, et cetera, and so on. We have to be mindful of our impact as humans, right? But there does seem to be this mental issue in this White House, and even with Elon Musk, who we have heard is taking a step back from Doge. There seems to be a fixation on the population of the United States and where it ranks globally. I think we're the 3rd most populous country, something like that. I have no interest in us being the most populous country. I know that. But I am concerned that there seems to be a fixation on reproduction just for reproduction's sake. And we already live in a society where women are waiting later in life to have children, that they have concerns about having children. I mean, could it be that we spoke about air quality a few minutes ago with a representative from the American Lung Association? Our air quality, while better than it was 25 years ago, still isn't healthy. We still have rates of cancer that are higher than the global norm. Could it be that aspiring mothers are waiting longer and having fewer children because they're afraid of having a child and the thought of sending that child off to school and that school becoming just another dot on a map of horrific headlines? Could it be cost? It's not getting cheaper to live in this country and raise a child. $201,000, I believe I saw it today in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the headline went, to raise a child in Georgia. We can even micro-focus this a little bit. I work in residential real estate, and I talk to aspiring homebuyers all the time who have budget realities sort of rein in their home buying desires. Bigger, we found, is not always better. Bigger plot of land, bigger house. I helped a couple move from suburban Chicago. They had a nice, not tiny, but like a nice, 1,400 square foot home, and came here seeking to live in the Lawrenceville area. And that quaint home that checks off all their boxes doesn't really exist. They wound up buying a bigger house, and there are a senior couple without kids. I don't even think they have pets. I'm trying to remember. They don't know. No pets. But they bought a 2-story home with a full basement below it 4 bedrooms, and again, that full basement. And what are they doing with that? The problem is there really wasn't something that they were looking for. They wanted a nice, quiet, quaint little neighborhood, walkable to a downtown. That's just not attainable in their budget. But that's the reality we live in this country, too. Bigger isn't necessarily better when it comes to houses or homes or townhomes. I relocated from Myrtle Beach. We had a 2 adults, 5-bedroom house. And we had family come to visit, so we wanted the extra space for that. In a gated neighborhood, it was affordable for what it was. And then moved to Atlanta, and it's like, in our budget, we have to move into a condo and get rid of a lot of stuff or store a lot of stuff and downsize. And I'm quite comfortable in that environment. Walk into an IKEA. I heartily recommend walk into an IKEA and find out how you can live in smaller spaces quite comfortably with storage options, et cetera, and so on. Anyway, I found the link on Facebook rather interesting and timely, given the times we live in, and all we're hand-wringing about here in Atlanta and throughout the country. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I head off is a message from Randy Rhodes, who is also airing on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, and on a handful of radio stations throughout the country. Randy Rhodes has been at this for quite a while. She is stepping away from her radio and broadcast empire. She wrote, "I am retiring." Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, that was yesterday, will be our last live show. If you are a Randy Rhodes Show subscriber, thank you. During the life of your subscription, you will still be able to log in with your username and password. Your automatic renewal will not renew, blah, 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 blah. She really didn't talk much about the why in this note. She just says, "Thank you for being a part of my life. I thoroughly enjoyed the ride. Love always, Randy." She did, however, mention on the air, I believe it was Monday, something about a medical procedure that's going to be happening, I believe today, that is going to, as she said, take it out of her. Just take a lot out of her. It's going to be pretty grueling. Don't know what it is. I hope it's something that she can quickly bounce back from and enjoy her retirement. Which just kind of brings me to the state of where political discourse in the audio spectrum is today. And it's not good. You look around, and I'm not trying to compare myself to everyone else I look at on Progressive Voices or America One Radio and go, ooh, that's not good. Tom Hartman, really good at what he does, very professorial. That's not for everyone. I would say the same thing about Rachel Maddow. Not for everyone. Chris Hayes I would say not for everyone, not the way he... I would say the same about Stephanie Miller. The Stephanie Miller Show, I believe, follows me on America One Radio weekdays. It's a very morning show, snarky, comic-y, yada, yada. That's not for everybody. Randy Rhodes had been at this a really long time, really good at how she did it. And I wish her the best, but I also wish the discourse a future that's for the best, whatever that next chapter may be. That is going to do it for today's Ron Show. I want to thank Dana Thompson from the American Lung Association for joining us and having this conversation. Show notes, as always, at ronshowatl.com. Back tomorrow, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. on America One Radio, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.